love to encourage you to start a business with us in the Black Business School. And so to make that easy, what we do is basically my best-selling book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, which is a pretty definitive yet clear guideline for any family that wants to build wealth at a higher level. I'm literally signing copies of this book and offering to you. The regular price is, I think, $40 for an autographed copy. We've dropped that price to those of you in this room to $14. So if this is your jam and you're into this, black wealth thing, and you want to make that into a business, there's nothing more fun than having a business in something that you're passionate about. Then put the text the word wealth to the phone number 87948, and I'll send you a link to get discounted copies. And so just text wealth to 87948, and I'll also put the link inside the chat if you want to get started with that. I know a lot of you are starting investment clubs and stuff like that, and so I'd love to be able to support you in that process. And really, when you talk about this whole wealth journey that we're on, and this goal that we have of sort of saying like, okay, how do we become the economic champions that we deserve to be? Then I would argue that there's sort of really us as a community really buckling down on core values that relate to us educating our own people is extremely important. I don't think I just am very cynical in terms of believing that white people and politicians are going to give us the tools that we need to truly solve this problem. And what I want to do today is actually share a video of a woman. There's a woman who did a really great speech about basically I don't know if she knew this or not, but it's a powernomic speech, and she's kind of explaining black economics like a game of Monopoly, right? And talking about just sort of just how the odds are stacked against us, and and that's the only way I can explain it. And the better way to explain it would be just to show you the video and let her talk for herself. And what I'll do is a couple things. One, I'll grab that link for the discounted books if you want to do business with us in that way and become a supplier, a distributor. But then also two, I will also I would like to ask you to help me make sure I don't mess up like yesterday. Because you remember yesterday, I thought the volume was playing and it wasn't, because I told you sometimes me and technology don't like each other. And so I want to make sure I do this right. So I'm going to ask you all as I play this video, can you give me a yes in the chat if you can hear the video? And I'm going to play it actually a couple times today because I want to analyze and dissect what she's saying because it's really important for us as economic thinkers, which all of us are, to really make sure that we understand the assignment and understand what's really happening and what the good and the bad and the ugly is. All right. So here I'm going to play this clip. It's on my Instagram if you want to go and join the conversation. It looks like there's a pretty vibrant conversation around it right now. And my Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So feel free to do that. Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear her. I'm going to play the video right now.
Now decided that I wanted to play Monopoly with you. And for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money. I didn't allow you to have anything on the board. I didn't allow for you to have anything. And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. That was Tulsa. That was Rosewood. Those are places where we built black economic wealth, where we were self-sufficient, where we owned our stores, where we owned our property, and they burned them to the ground. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them. So then for 50 years, you finally get a little bit and you're allowed to play, and every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money. And then, finally, at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play, and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now, at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct? But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire? How can you win? You can't win. If I right now decided that I wanted to...
Hey. Give me a quick yes if everybody heard this video. I've actually heard it, and every time when I hear it, I get pumped up because because she asked that question that got me triggered a little bit. My wife is going to come in for a few minutes, and she's a therapist and a trauma expert, and so she says traumatized people like me, we get triggered easy. I saw at the end, she said we win. I said, finance professor, I know how we can win. I know what we can do. I got. Can I answer? Can I answer? Can I answer? Or is no one going to listen because I'm not a rapper or I'm not, sort of swimming in victimhood? I'm not saying she's doing that at all. I'm not saying that about her comment. I'm saying, like, think about this. You got to start off by just saying, like, are we listening to the experts? Are we truly listening? Not just me. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking, there's so many other people that are so qualified to talk about this. Who is Dr. Julianne Malveaux has a whole PhD in economics from MIT. If anybody knows how hard it is, it's hard to get a legitimate PhD from an average institution. Right? It's hard to get that. MIT is a whole nother level of insanity in terms of the amount of pressure that you are under. It's like being an NBA All-Star in economics, right? So here's the funny thing, right? I remember when the Obama administration would try to solve the black economic problem with more jobs, which is a terrible solution. Right? You need wealth. You don't need jobs. Black jobs are not the same as black wealth. You do understand that, right? Answer me in the chat. Let me know. That's your assignment. Do you understand black jobs and black wealth are not the same thing? Do we understand this? This is an important. This is economics 101, right? But when they would try to solve that problem, they would have these meetings, right? And they would invite Al Sharpton over and over and over again. And I said, I don't understand that. I said, Al Sharpton has never taken a class in economics in his life. Al Sharpton is a preacher with a perm. You might call him if you want to know how to keep your hair shiny, silky, and smooth, or how to give a good sermon. The man is a great speaker, but I said, he ain't no economics expert. Why are you talking to Al Sharpton about something that is well beyond his pay grade? And Julianne Malveau's right down the street. She told me she got time today. She can come down to the White House and break down some economic theory from her MIT training to help you solve the problem. Dr. Claude Anderson, the author of Powernomics, one of the greatest economic thinkers in the history of this country, is right around the corner. You can bring him in too. He got time today also. So part of the reason the problem doesn't get solved is because I'm not convinced people really want to solve the problem. I remember I used to get calls from the Obama administration. I kid you not, I used to, and I thought that the calls were designed to hear from the community. And at that time, I had a little bit of a following. I was writing for AOL Black Voices, and I was on the faculty of Syracuse. And I said, great, I'd love to talk to you and share some ideas and perspectives on things that can really help the Black community. And it didn't take me long before I realized that they weren't calling me because they wanted to help the Black community. They were calling me because they wanted me to help them tell the Black community what to do. Do you understand the difference? And I know for some of us it breaks the illusion and the fairy tale. And I hate to have to bring this bad news to you, but the truth doesn't care about our feelings. The truth is only the truth. And the truth was that I had a conversation with this guy on the phone. It was some guy, he was like the head of Black media or something. Like, again, one of those, what I call them Negro managers. These people that have their job is to connect with influencers. That's kind of what I was, an influencer, I guess, and manage them. And I'm like, I don't know if you need to check my resume, brother, because I'm not built for slavery. I'm not here to be told what to do. In academia, you're not supposed to be an intellectual follower. If you're a good scholar, you're not supposed to be an intellectual follower. You're not supposed to just regurgitate what's in somebody's textbook or somebody else's talking points. In academia, you're supposed to be an intellectual leader. All the research papers I wrote when I was on the faculty of Syracuse were what you call original research. The requirement of original research is that you have to come up with ideas that no one else already knows. If someone else already said it, then what you're saying isn't relevant because they're like, well, we already know that. We need you on the frontier pushing the boundary of knowledge. Do you understand the difference there, right? So what that did for me was I took the assignment seriously. I said, okay, so my job here is not to just repeat talking points. It's not to just sit and whine about a problem. It's not to just simply reiterate the same frustration that we've had for a long time. My job as a scholar, and I take it very seriously, was to solve the damn problem. and figure out a way of approaching the problem that's different from what we've done before. So does anybody remember Einstein's definition of insanity? What did he define insanity to be? Write it in the chat. Some of y'all know. Insanity, according to Einstein, is trying to solve a problem using the same approach you've used over and over and over before. That's the definition of insanity, to approach the same problem with the same tactic every single time, and to repeat it over and over again, and somehow think you're going to get a different result. That's just not going to happen here. So um let me play the video again so I can, because I love this lady's video. I said, "Ooh, buddy, she broke it down real nice. I like this," and people resonated with it. So I'm gonna give some context to it so we can really understand what's happening here. All right. So give me a second. I'm gonna pull up this video one more time. Some of you just came in, so So I really want to watch this again because this is deep. I took notes. I've already watched it several times, but look at all these notes I took. Y'all can't see, but I just chicken scratch. But I got notes on this. This is crazy. All right, so let me play this video again, and let's listen to what she has to say. It's so great. And give me that yes, that thumbs up again. Wait, you know how I mess up with the technology. So let me hit this button. Make sure I'm sharing my audio. Okay, perfect. Let me know again if you can hear it. Here it goes.
Play Monopoly with you, and for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money. I didn't allow you to have anything on the board. I didn't allow for you to have anything. And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. That was Tulsa. That was Rosewood. Those are places where we built black economic wealth, where we were self-sufficient, where we owned our stores, where we owned our property, and they burned them to the ground. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them. So then for 50 years, you finally get a little bit and you're allowed to play, and every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money. And then, finally, at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play, and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now, at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct? But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire. How can you win?
Okay. All right. So she ended with a great question. How can you win? Step one, rule number one. If you're in a tough game, can we at least agree that you're not going to win if you conclude by saying we can't win? Right? Do we at least agree that if we're sitting around talking about how we can't win, like see the question of how do you win? That's a question that's a deep question to me, because it's either a real question or it's a rhetorical question. Do you understand? And if it's a real question, then that presents a real problem, which lends itself to some sort of solution, right? Which also lends itself to the things that we've talked about when it comes to economics, which is self-esteem and self-confidence, to believe that you can actually solve the problem and having the confidence to implement the solution and the discipline to do so. So that's when it's shaped as a real question. And I like it that way. But then there's the possibility it's a rhetorical question. And that to me is very dangerous. A rhetorical question says, how can we win? And then you start singing, you start sounding like Michael Jackson in The Wiz. Remember when he played the Scarecrow and he said, you can't win, you can't break even, and you can't get out of the game. People say things will get better, but really they just staying the same. You can't win, you're over your head, and you only got yourself to blame. You can't win, child, you can't win. I love that. I love The Wiz, one of my favorite movies. And that's it. Michael Jackson killed it, right? But think about this, right? So there's a difference in terms of asking that question. How do you win? If you are asking the question in a way where you're saying, of course we can't win. I mean, my God, we're black. And we certainly can't win without the help of white people. That really lends itself to additional controlling slavery. You're signing up for the oppression package. And what do I mean by that? Well, it means that when you say, how do we win? And I walk away and I'm singing the Michael Jackson song that we can't win, we can't break even, and we can't get out of the game. So I basically am surrendering. I'm getting on my knees and I'm going to white people and I'm not standing tall. I'm coming in as a midget and I'm saying, we can't win. We need you to share. We need you to help us. Because we can't win. Right. And then we're singing and dancing for white folks, and we're hoping that one day they're going to stop being white. We're hoping that one day that racism and oppression and the things that America's been doing for 400 years are going to come to an end, and that somehow all the white liberals are going to get together and say, let's really fight for the black community to have what they deserve. Um, I'm sorry, I apologize, but I can't live in that fairy tale with you. I can't. I can't. I need you to go see a doctor or something because something wrong with you. You're crazy. Um. So let's assume we're asking the question in an honest way, in a confident way. That says, well, how do you win? Well, first thing you got to do is you got to go and understand you've got people in your community who are absolute experts at economics. First, you start by talking to them. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. Maybe you go talk to black families who figured out how to remain stable. Let's just start right here. How many of you have a family that's doing well? Give me a yes if I know that you're only going to be on TV if somebody got shot last week, or if you ain't got no job, or if you are an inch away from being homeless, or you and your baby's mamas are fighting. But how many of you would say you have a family that's doing well? You're stable, everybody's happy, everybody's doing what they love and prospering, and there's some wealth around. Maybe there's some property ownership, maybe you own some stock, maybe you actually made some money this week. How many of you would say that your family's doing well? Well, a lot of you are putting yeses in the chat, and I'm not making fun of those who can't put a yes in the chat. That's okay, I get it, but that right there might be a clue. How do you win? How do you win the game? Well, you start by talking to the winners. If you're gonna talk to the winners can say, "This is what we did. Me and my wife went and got therapy so we could keep our marriage together for the sake of the family and the kids, and we build wealth together now." Or this is how we got our kids a good education. We made sure they did their homework every day. We made sure that they went to a good school. This is how we did well in the stock market. We bought stock consistently, and then we bought some real estate on top of it. Right? You talk to the freaking winners. Everybody ain't losing. And stop acting like there's something wrong with black people who point out the fact that every black person ain't losing. Everybody ain't losing. Stop it. People get mad at me when I say, well, everybody's not suffering. Well, you're elitist. You're not connected to the struggle. No, I'm definitely connected to the struggle. I was born in the projects. You wasn't born in the damn projects. My mama was 17 when she gave birth to me, and my daddy was already gone. Heroin took him away from me. So stop talking to me like I don't know what it's like to struggle. I don't struggle now, but that's because I struggled in the past to get out the damn struggle. So when you ask, how do you win? The question is, are you looking for a solution or are you looking for another pity party? If you want to know how to win, go talk to the winners and don't go talk to the whiners. You got the winners and the whiners, the winos, and you can't win, you can't break even, and you can't get out of the game. Singing Michael Jackson songs. I don't want to hear. I'm not saying that I get it. We understand the magnitude of the problem, but stop swimming in the fucking problem, and then maybe you'll figure out how to solve it. So, let's go back to our question for today. How do you win? Oh my God, this Monopoly game. First of all, they had everything. If I go through New York City and I look at every skyscraper in Manhattan, damn near every skyscraper in Manhattan is owned by a person who is not black, right? That they own everything. Absolutely. She's right about that. That's so true. And then she mentioned something that was also true, that historically, when we built something and we owned something, What did they do? Somebody came along, they took it, they burned it down, and they destroyed it. 100% true. This is one of the reasons why reparations is always a non-negotiable in my book. This is always an absolute yes. This is crystal clear. There's not even a debate to be had on reparations. So, and who knows, maybe if Charlie Kirk was still here and he wanted to debate a grown up instead of a bunch of damn 20-year-olds who don't know what the hell's going on, I could have explained that to him. That was one of his biggest mistakes, was to run around talking about reparations when the poor guy didn't know what the hell he was talking about. His points were nuanced. I didn't disagree with him and everything, but when he talked about reparations, he sounded like a freaking idiot. He was so incorrect about that. But whatever, he has a right to his opinion, but he was wrong on that. But again, if he had debated grown men and grown women instead of like children, someone would have explained that to him. But anyway, but he didn't deserve what he got. I'm going to stand on that 100%. All right, so moving on. So she says that when you build something, they take it from you. So here's something you got to understand about competitive economic warfare. This is something you got to understand about life, about the world. Typically, historically, no matter what country you're in, no matter what community you're talking about, anytime there was a group of people that acquired something of value, there was always somebody out there who's going to try to take it. Again, is it fair? No, it's not fair. But if you look at the history of most countries, most wealthy countries, there was a point where they had to defend what they had. I just had a conversation yesterday with a man who's had a father who invested his whole life and built all this wealth, and then because he didn't get the right insurance policies and didn't make the proper preparations with estate planning, now the big pharma's taking all of his money. So really, at the end of the day, what's really true is that when you talk about wealth, there's four stages. Write it down if you don't know it yet. Number one, figure out where the wealth is located. When I found out that such a small percentage of our people were not even introduced to the stock market as children, that explained a lot about why black wealth is going down. The stock market is the number one wealth generator in the world. If the majority of black people are not being introduced to it at an early age and being told that this is a mandatory thing to participate in the stock market, then of course you're not going to have any wealth. That's where the money's at. If you want to know a big rule of getting money is go where the money is. Don't go where the money's not. If you want to grow flowers, don't go to the desert. Don't go to Alaska. You go to a garden. You go to the botanical whatever. You go into the greenhouse. That's where you grow the green, is in the greenhouse. So the money's green. You want to grow the green. Go to the greenhouse. Go to the fertile land. Go to the place where things grow. Don't go to the place where things die. Money dies in many of the economic deserts that we go into. When you are a worker in America, your money dies. When you are a heavy consumer, your money dies. When you go deep in debt, your money dies. So that's the first thing. If you want to make money, go where the money's located, figure out where the money is. Number two, make a plan to acquire the money. Success doesn't typically happen by accident. Wealth certainly doesn't happen by accident. Wealth tends to happen when there's a plan and the plan is executed over a long period of time. They call that the wealth accumulation process. Wealth accumulates the same way snow accumulates, the same way a baby grows, the same way that you accumulate miles if you're a marathon runner, or if you're driving a car, you accumulate miles because distance equals rate times time. So you take 50 miles an hour, you drive 10 hours, you cover 500 miles. Wealth is built on the same mathematics as driving a freaking car down the road. But to get down the road, you got to get in the damn car, you got to start driving, and you have to have a map to know where you want to drive to. Wealth is exactly the same. Number three, once you acquire the wealth, sorry, let me say that. So first you find out where the wealth is. Number two, you make a plan. Number three, you execute the plan. So I mentioned two and three together. My apologies. Number three, you execute the plan you make. Execution is everything. The question is not, to me, it's not, I don't care as much about what you know as much as I care about what you're planning to do. I don't care about what you're planning to do as much as I care about what you're actually doing. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Right? So you can tell me what you know. There's a lot of you very smart. A lot of you know a lot of stuff, especially those of you that come to class on a regular basis. You're probably the economic genius of your family. You've been exposed to ideas that your family members maybe wouldn't have seen for another 60 years, and I applaud you for that. So, but what you know is only part of the equation. It's also, well, what are you planning to do with it? And what are you just gonna sit on it and just absorb information? That's not gonna help anybody. And so then you say, okay, well, let me execute. Let me make a plan of execution. After you make the plan of execution based on what you know, then it's like, but then you run into the big barrier where most people I notice make plans and then they don't follow through. If you don't believe me, look, watch every year when millions of people make New Year's resolutions to lose weight and whatever the hell people want to do. Usually it relates to losing weight and making money, right? Or starting a business or something. And I want you to pay attention to the fact that 95% of those people fall off and never execute, never do anything. That's a lack of consciousness. You're not consciously considering the fact that your life pretty much is an accumulation and it's a function of what you do on a regular basis. So don't tell me what you believe. Show me what you're doing. Show me what you do every day. You become whatever you do consistently. So if I eat Doritos and fatty food consistently, I'm going to get fat. If I exercise consistently, I'm going to be in shape. If I am stressed out consistently, then I'm going to have a chaotic life, right? If I'm choosing to do kind things consistently, then I'm going to have a lot of friends, right? So you are a function of what you do consistently. And then the fourth part of the wealth accumulation process, after you figure out where the money's at, make a plan to get it, execute the plan. The fourth is where my friend's father fell a little bit short, is you got to protect the wealth. He did not protect the wealth. And so what happened to this poor guy, this is a true story, is he spent his whole life, he spent 50 years investing consistently and building hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock and real estate for his family. And now that because he did not prepare for retirement, old age, getting sick, hospice, all that, they're literally clawing back hundreds of thousands of dollars of that money right now. Like literally by the time he's done, chances are he will have spent roughly $250,000. He's probably worth about, let's say, 600,000, something like that. Did a good job. $250,000 of that money is going to go toward paying for hospice and hospitals and pills and everything. And then another chunk of it is going to go to the IRS, right? Because he has to sell some assets. So protect what you have. That's really important. So this protection piece kicks in as well when you're talking about the fact that whatever we build, I just want to tell you in advance, whatever we build as a community, whatever we build as individuals, as families, etc., somebody's going to come try to take it. That's just a fact. Somebody's gonna come take it. Hopefully, they won't do what they did in Tulsa in 1921. That was highly inappropriate behavior. I'm still angry for them. I do not forgive easily on stuff like that. I'm not gonna go and just think that everything's wonderful and dandy, and you throw some stupid politician in front of me that's telling me to forget about the past. No, you forget about your past. How about that? How about you forget about your money and give some of that money to us so we can rebuild? Stop telling me to forget my past if you won't contribute to helping us fix this issue. But anyway, with that being said, protection is going to be critical. The ability to protect what you have and to rebuild is going to be essential. I watched that. I mentioned to you all maybe about a year ago. I wanted to understand my father's experience in Vietnam because Vietnam still affects him. He's still very upset about things that happened in Vietnam, horrible trauma he experienced. I watched a documentary about Vietnam, and for whatever reason, I have no idea. And I think some of this has been true since I was a baby. There's two types of things I can watch nonstop. When I was a baby, my mother said I would just watch football games. I would just watch it. She would put me in front of the TV, which, right, wonderful parenting, but she was a baby. She was 17. And I would watch a football game. And I would just watch football for 6, 7 straight, 8 straight hours, right? Again, don't judge, but that's what it was. And the other thing I can watch is war documentaries. I am fascinated with war. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe in a previous life I was in a war. I have no idea. But I watched this Vietnam documentary probably 5 or 6 times. It was 12 hours long, and I just watch it, and every scene is just really interesting. And you're talking about a kid with ADHD. I don't. My attention span is weird. And one of the things I remember in the documentary was they how stupid the war was. First off, I mean, just some of these wars these politicians declare are just manipulation of the American people. We know this, but then also I noticed that they dropped more bombs on little Vietnam than all the countries dropped on every other country in all of World War II combined. Right, so this little tiny country had more bombs dropped on it than all of Europe had during World War II, which was just an insane statistic. And but here's the problem. Here was what was crazy. America thought they could just bomb the hell out of Vietnam and eventually win, but they couldn't. We lost that war. Well, they asked them 30 years later, and they said, what? How did you do that? Like every time we dropped bombs on you, we blow up a bridge and then the bridge would come right back. Right? Every time we blow up the Ho Chi Minh Trail, you were still able to use it. And she said, had a very simple saying. She said, well, we had saying in Vietnam that if they blow it up, we will rebuild. If they blow it up again, we will rebuild again. And that is a simple statement, but I thought that was so freaking powerful. What she's referring to is resilience. Resilience. I mean, can somebody really walk up? I mean, if you got a real dream and but your dream is fragile to the point where somebody could just come up and punch you in the mouth and make you give up on everything, then you might as well not even have a dream in the first place. Investing isn't just about putting money towards something. Investing means emotionally investing in something that you believe. It means loving the dream and loving yourself enough that you say, hey, I'm willing to go down with the freaking ship. That resilience, that is a spiritual thing. That ain't got nothing to do with how much money you were born with. It ain't got nothing to do with how much education you got. It ain't got nothing to do with how much white folks will and will not do for you. That spiritual piece of saying, no, I'm here. I'm not going away. I'm not going to stop. You knock me down, I will always stand back up. That is the thing that is what leaders, winners, warriors are made of. That is how you win. Resilience is everything. You go talk to any millionaire who started a great business, they can tell you many stories about resilience. The Bitcoin is on the path, it's on the trajectory to eventually be worth over $1 million, even though it's crashed, it's risen, it's crashed, it's risen, it's crashed, it's risen, it's crashed. The reason Bitcoin is one of the most dominant cryptos in the world, and the reason I'm invested in Bitcoin is for one reason. It's because you've got people that love Bitcoin so much that they are willing to go down with the freaking ship. There is nothing you can do to some of the hodlers, the originators, the people that deeply believe in Bitcoin for whatever reason. It might be related to politics or independence or whatever it is. They're not going to ever give up. So Bitcoin could drop from $113,000 down to a penny, and they're still not going to sell their Bitcoin. And that is what made me invest. I said, I want to go to battle with people that are resilient. If I'm going to go put my money on the line, I need to know that you are a fighter and a soldier and a winner, and that you're not going to give up and walk away like a little punk just because somebody slapped you in the face. That is what is required to be successful. If you embrace that idea and that becomes a part of who you are, then you cannot lose. You will not lose. They're gonna have to kill you before it's done. So maybe that's the only way you can lose. But even then, if your spirit's strong enough, like right now, I'm not in any way putting myself on any kind of a pedestal, but this is the spirit I seek to embrace. And I know for a fact, tell me, confirm in the chat, I know for a fact that if they came in right now and Charlie Kirk me and sent me to heaven, they can't stop this train. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me if I'm right. They can't stop this. Why? Well, because I've sat here with you and I've done probably 30,000 videos talking about similar topics related to Black wealth and Black economics, Black family, Black prosperity. I've laid the blueprint out. Whether or not Boyce is here to keep delivering it doesn't really matter. It's already in the households of millions of our people. And I didn't have to talk you into it. I just laid the truth out for you and you embraced it yourself. You made that decision. That's internal for you. That didn't come from me. So what I'm saying to you is resilience is everything. You cannot, if you built the Black Wall Street and it's not backed by resilience, it is not going to survive. Because believe me, massa's coming. The colonizers coming. When they see you built something nice, they're going to be like sitting over there licking their chops and rubbing their hands like Birdman trying to figure out how they can get a piece of it. Great African leaders have always said that after colonization, the colonizers always come back, but they show up as investors. We want to invest. Boy, we like what you got going on over here. We like to invest in, right? And next thing you know, you don't own nothing no more. You don't know what happened. So let's keep going. She mentioned in the video also a part where she says, what if in the Monopoly game, somebody else starts off with everything? She said, everything you build, they take away from you, right? Which comes back to protection. And then she said, you're forced to play for your opponent and make money for them and hand wealth over to them. I thought that was interesting because she's right. The majority of black people work for white people. So not only do they have their wealth, they get all of your wealth. The majority of black people work for white people. The majority of black people rent from white people. The majority of black people buy products from white people. And the majority of black people buy more products from white people than they buy from themselves. They're more willing to do labor and work for white people than themselves. Okay, that is a fact. That is true. So I'm going to ask you a question in response to this question. She says you have to play for your opponent and you have to give them your wealth. I want to ask you this: is that true? Do you have to do that? Do black people have to work for? Is there a law that says in the books that black people have to serve white people? That black people have to buy their products? That black people must you must make sure that if you get a landlord, he better be a white man. If he's not a white man, you're going to get arrested for that. Is there such a law that says we have to do any of these things? Yes or no? No, there is no law. There's no law, but it's kind of like it feels like a rule because it's kind of in here. And the question is where does that come from? And I'm going to ask you this very logical question: how many of you grew up and lived in a household where the assumption was at some point you're going to work for a white man? How many of you grew up? How many of you just had this? Just like that was just what people believed. Like, yeah, of course you got to get along with white people. I mean, you got to work for them. You got to go right. And or you think about this, right? We were raised on this belief about, for example, the civil rights movement, that somehow it made sense to go and get your head bashed in just so you can have the right to go into a white man's business and give him all your money. I have nothing against the civil rights movement. I believe they were fully well intended. They showed tremendous courage, but they weren't always fighting for the right thing. And I'm not being radical by saying this. There were people who were right there in the middle of it. Malcolm X was in the middle of it. Dr. Claude Anderson was in the middle of it. And at that time, Dr. Claude Anderson, Malcolm X, and many, many others, millions of other people, were basically stating the exact same thing I'm saying to you right now, which is that makes absolutely no damn sense. They were saying, hey, instead of us fighting to give more money to white people, how about we go build businesses that will give more money to black people? And there were interests outside the community that basically said, don't listen to these people. They're crazy. They're stupid. They're too radical. Right. So ultimately, this idea that you have to serve the opponent, there is no have to in any of that. And if there is a feeling that you have to do this, you have to ask yourself, where did that mandate come from? It doesn't come from the law. It doesn't even come from white people. I don't think a white man. I met a white man in Walgreens yesterday, and he was a very nice guy. He wanted to show me how to play pickleball, which is cool. I said my sister's boyfriend owns a pickleball team, and I liked him. His name was Lawrence, just like my brother. And I said, yeah, I'd like to play pickleball, but not. There was not one time in this conversation where Lawrence, the nice white man I met at Walgreens, said, "You know, boy, you also need to come work for me. Show up at my house around noontime, and I need you to bring some lemonade and come in and be my employee." He didn't say that to me, right? So the question is, when you feel like you have this mandate that we have to work for white people. We got to buy things from white people. You got to ask, where does that come from? Well, so unfortunately, some of that gets perpetuated from us. Let's move on. Um, she talked about also if you start to equalize and start to catch up, that they're going to burn it down again. And I'm going to add something to that she didn't say. Sometimes, you'll see scenarios where maybe people change the laws, right? And that's fine too, right? They change the laws and say, oh, this way you were making money before, it's now illegal, or whatever. And I certainly agree with that, and that's certainly true. And so one of the things I would say to you is that if you look at all the things that she described, what she's describing actually on one level is risk and understanding risk management as a critical principle for Black investing. Racism is a risk factor, is it not? Oppressive white people, that's a risk factor, is it not? The fact that you're operating on enemy territory is a risk factor, is it not? Well, you might be talking to the right guy, because I spent a lot of time on my doctoral work doing risk management, assessing risk and what that means, what that looks like, how it shows up, and how to deal with that. One of the things that we have to consider as we build for the future is various measures that can be put in place to minimize your risk. One of which we talk about all the time is the number one rule of investing, which is diversification. Never put all your eggs in one basket. So if I'm black and I'm trying to build wealth in America, and I'm in a society where not everybody's my friend, and some people want to take from me, some people want to stop me, some people want to block me from opportunities, then one of the biggest things I'm thinking is that as I build, I never build in such a way where everything is in one location where they could take it all away from me just like that. I remember as a black man, just as a human, that literally the same people who have the ability to feed me also have the ability to starve me. I entered the game knowing that I live in a country that is a capitalist society where economic warfare is used by everybody on everybody. The Israelis have used economic warfare. The Zionists have used economic warfare to control America in a bunch of horrible ways. And they've got us involved in wars that we don't even want to be a part of. And that's because they've used economic power in order to do that. So what do I do? What that means is that I understand where the risk factors might be. The biggest risk factor that black people face in America economically is the fact that most of us were falsely led to believe that there's such a thing as job security. We were falsely led to believe that if I'm a single parent with one job and all my income, all my financial security comes from that job and nothing else, that I'm going to be safe and okay as long as my boss decides they don't like me. Right? As long as my boss decides they're going to give me security, I'm going to be secure. And my boss is part of the same group of people that have created nothing but chaos in my community for the last 400 years. That's a very dangerous way to think. So I can just tell you right now, and I hate to say this to you in this way, I want to be as clear and polite as I can. If you have one job and one stream of income coming from that job and no income coming from anywhere else, you are in danger. The risk is very, very high. You have to address that issue immediately if you want to be financially safe and minimize some of the risk factors that this lady brought up in this video. So what does that look like? Well, number one, I'm going to do everything I can to not get all my income from one source. Uh, no, I might have a spouse that also has an income. That's why I make sure my relationships are strong. Maybe I start a business with people I love. That becomes another stream of income. It takes time to build, but it does happen. I make investments. I own stocks over here. That way I have assets I can lean on in case things get tough. So saving and investing is not something I do if I have extra money. Saving and investing is as mandatory as going to school. It's as mandatory as paying bills on time. It's as mandatory as going to work every day. I have to do this because I got to be safe. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you look it up, start safety and security is way at the bottom. That's the foundation. If you don't have a safe, secure environment, it's very difficult for you to elevate and to do all the other things you can do because you haven't met your basic needs. So, this to me is a risk issue. How do you minimize your risk? Well, in your household, you talk about financial security as receiving multiple streams of income, owning assets in multiple places, so that you're never in a position where one person can decide to turn the light switch and shut your whole life and put you in the dark and destroy everything you have, put you in a state of complete economic chaos and insecurity and anxiety, extreme financial anxiety, because they just decided, we don't need you anymore, Sheila, so we wish you good luck. 300,000 black women could probably tell you about that because they lost more jobs than anybody else in the country in the last 6 months. Um, One more thing, and I'm going to see if my wife is supposed to come in today, and she might not be able to come in. So if y'all will give me 1 second, I got two things. I hope it's okay. This sounds so ghetto. Number one, I gotta go check on my wife, and I gotta go pee. So if y'all can give me like 60 seconds to do that, I gotta do because I'm not good talking when I gotta pee. So forgive me for that. I know that's just y'all gonna be like, man, Boyce, you were doing good, but you sound like an idiot right now. But I'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. And by the way, I'll share the link actually if you want to buy the books at a discount and you can sell them or whatever you want to do with them. So the retail price of my autograph book is $40. You can buy it for 14 if you want to start a business. And if this is your thing, then I don't want to I don't did a whole lot of teaching. I really kind of want you to be the teacher too. So here you can use my book as a resource, as well as our flashcards, anything that you want to do. So there's the link right there. And I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick because I just gotta go, man. It's very painful right now. All right, I'll be right back. Hey, Alicia? Alicia? Okay, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. I feel so much better now. Also, Alicia can't make it today because she thought that there was I don't know. Ladies, y'all so confusing sometimes. You want something one minute, then you don't want something else. All right, so anyway, all right, so the so let's get back to it. Okay, so some of the income streams might be from a business. Well, really, there's three major ways that people build wealth in America, and this is to me, these are the first things kids should be taught. One is from owning a business. Entrepreneurs that are good at it tend to do better financially than people that have jobs. Also, it's important for Black people, especially because our unemployment rate is the highest. And Black men, really, because Black men have the highest unemployment rate of anybody in the country. And I just think that it's very destabilizing and really debilitating for men to sort of feel like you only have a right to be a man financially if the white man is hiring, right? Like that's just kind of like something that men just can't. I don't think that that's a comfortable place to be, and so ultimately, all we have to do really is it's a very simple adjustment. Just make sure you treat investing as if it's as important as working every day or getting an education or paying bills on time. You pay bills on time, that'll increase your credit score. You go to work every day, that'll get you enough money to pay your bills. You get an education, that's going to really benefit you in a lot of ways. But none of those things are going to really typically make you rich. If your goal is to be rich and financially secure, then you want to be an investor. And the three major areas are starting your own business, real estate, and stock market slash crypto stuff like that, right? So anyway, so moving on. Let's finish up on these points here. So in this video, and let me play it one more time because I kind of feel like we want to really kind of assess this. And again, I want to go back to the basic idea. When she says, how do you win the game? I think the first step to winning the game is to believe that you can even win. And then the other thing about winning the game is I kind of want us to stop comparing ourselves to white people all the time. I'm not saying that the racial wealth gap doesn't exist. It does. There is a gap. White people have so much money, more money than black people do, 100%. But I don't want everything, I don't think it's healthy for every wealth conversation to start from a deficit-based foundation. To say that, no matter how well you're doing, no matter how great things are in your life or how much work we're doing right now, that the first thing we do is start off by saying, well, yeah, we're behind white people. There's a gap. We're behind. Um, yeah, I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that there's different ways to look at it as well. That I think you can look at it and say, yeah, we're behind, but a community is built one family at a time, and our family's not behind. Like, for example, if I was to ask you, how many of you know a black family that's doing better than most white people? Give me a yes in the chat. If your own family, give me a yes in the chat if you know a black family that's doing better than most white people. Like, the white people will get jealous if they knew how much money they had. And some of you I know are in those families because I know a lot, how many of you bought stocks like Oklo that went up 1,300% this year. A lot of you, I mean, some of you made over $100,000 on this thing. So that most white people don't have that privilege. Most white people are not, most white people didn't make those investments. And why are you so surprised by the fact that there are black people doing better than most white people? You're smart. You're educated. A lot of you work hard. You're doing all the right things in your life. Why shouldn't you succeed? And again, and the only way it would look like you shouldn't succeed is if you believe that America is just so undeniably, horrifically racist and biased that there's no way for you to do well, even if you're doing the right things. I don't think that's the country that we live in. Again, I probably even sound like I spent a few minutes ago telling you where I thought Charlie Kirk was terribly wrong. But one area where I probably wouldn't disagree with him is that America is a country that does have opportunities for people that do certain things. But where he is wrong, though, is that he was a person that didn't believe in accountability when it came to his own people. It's very easy for people to say, well, you need to be accountable. You need to be accountable, right? So if he's pointing at black people saying, you need to be accountable for the violence in your community, I'm like, yeah, we should be. I'd like to see that. But then when it's like, but you're not going to be accountable for the role that other white men play in making our job that much more difficult, then that tells me that's just yet another double standard, right? So everybody wants to hold it. Accountability is something everybody embraces until they turn it on themselves. Most people don't want to be accountable for what they're doing or what their group is doing, but they want to always believe that they want to hold everybody else again. You see men online that say, we want to hold women accountable and women need to be accountable for this, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah, they should be. There's some unaccountable women out here, but what about you? A lot of those same men won't be accountable for anything they do because everybody needs a scapegoat. Everybody needs someone to blame. It's easier to sort of be a whining victim than it is to actually solve a problem and confront it. That's why the problems don't get solved. Okay, so last point I'll throw in here is actually let me play the video one more time, just so I like to look at things 2 or 3 times so we can really understand what's being said here. All right, so I'm gonna play this. Give me a yes if you can hear this video when I play it. Here it goes.
Monopoly with you. And for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money. I didn't allow you to have anything on the board. I didn't allow for you to have anything. And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. That was Tulsa. That was Rosewood. Those are places where we built black economic wealth, where we were self-sufficient, where we owned our stores, where we owned our property, and they burned them to the ground. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them. So then for 50 years, you finally get a little bit and you're allowed to play, and every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money. And then, finally, at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now, at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct? But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire? How can you win?
Okay, so let's address that last part where she talked about the psychological warfare. That's a big one, right? How many of you would agree that there's a lot of psychological warfare that happens when it comes to Black America? How many of you would agree with that? Give me a yes in the chat if you agree. And also, let me ask you this: how many of you would agree that their psychological warfare even extends beyond what they do to the Black community? That there are corporations that engage in psychological warfare. The government engages in psychological warfare against its people. How many of you would agree with that? All right, so let's talk about that. So the first step towards solving a problem is to have some degree of awareness of the problem. So I would argue to say that capitalism is a greedy beast. Capitalism. I'm not saying that I like socialism or Marxism better. I think a blend of the three is actually the best approach. But capitalism is kind of one of these things that it's a greedy beast, but it's a little bit of a colorblind greedy beast unless your color gives it an advantage, right? So it reminds me of when Hillary Clinton made some racist statements about Barack Obama during the election. And they said, oh, look, this proves Hillary Clinton is a racist. I don't really know if Hillary Clinton wakes up every day thinking, how can I be a racist? I saw her as a person that was trying to win an election. And as a person trying to win an election, if she sees that, defining Barack Obama as a radical black man is going to help her get an advantage, I could see her using that, whether she's racist or not. So with that said, I would almost look at capitalism in kind of the same way. If capitalism knows that there's a way to manipulate you, if capitalism knows that maybe you're in poverty or that you're more subject to misinformation or whatever, it's going to use that. So if they, for example, if you go to a lot of black neighborhoods, you'll notice that there's a lot more ads for like unhealthy stuff. There's like the liquor store over here, the gun shop next door to that. There's like fast food advertisements everywhere so they can make sure they kill you with the fast food. And why would they do that? Well, because they say in these neighborhoods people buy more Popeyes chicken than other neighborhoods. Um, are they doing that just because you're black? Well, no, because they probably wouldn't do the same thing in a black neighborhood where people were more educated on food, on healthy food and things like that, and had a little more discipline about what they eat and more opportunity as well, right? Where maybe they have enough money to actually order healthy food, right? So the capitalism isn't saying I just want to find the black people. The capitalism saying I want to find the people that are going to be more likely to do what I need them to do. You understand? The capitalism says I'm going to just see, I'm going to poke around and see where my opportunities are because capitalism is all about growth at all costs. So where can I grow? Where can I sell this food? If I can't sell my food to you, then I'm not going to sell it to you anymore. I'm not going to run ads in your neighborhood. But if I see, according to the data, that you're more likely to come to the Popeyes chicken that I put on the corner of your neighborhood, then I'm going to put as many as I can in that space. So with that said, when she talks about the psychological warfare, I think that's very, very deep. I don't know if we spend enough time really talking about that and also working around that. One of the things I've consistently said for about 20 years now is that black children should be educated by black people. I really believe that. And I don't know how people perceive it. I don't know if people think that that makes me a racist. I'm not saying white people aren't good at what they do, but communities that tend to prosper, that become very strong and stable, they insist that their own people are part of the educational process for their children. We, I believe, are open to letting others educate our kids more readily because we have this fascination, this love, this extreme adoration, this desire to be accepted by whites, and this extreme belief in the competence of whites. When really, when our kids are going to these public schools, they're being destroyed. They're not just getting an inferior education, but it's laced with disdain and not love. They're not being encouraged to be their best selves. Their creativity isn't being stimulated at the highest levels. They're also not. They're also being trained to serve other communities. The school is kind of an indoctrination camp to prepare them to do what this lady talked about in this video, to go work for white people. So she says it in a way where she says we have to go work for them. And we know that we don't have to do anything, at least not that. No, no, there's no law saying you have to do that. But if everything that you've been educated on, if every idea you've been exposed to says that working for white people is the most logical and the correct path for you to pursue, and that this is something you should be fighting for, then next thing you know, 10, 15 years later, that kid is working for a white guy. And then when the politicians come around and say, well, what can we do to get your vote? They say, we want more jobs. We want more white people to hire us. And so where I have to come in and I have to come in and become the asshole is I say, why are you begging? You told me just yesterday how much your job is stressing you out. You told me the other day how your job is underpaying you. You told me about the racism on the job, how badly they're treating you. But yet, when the politician comes around and says, "What do you want?" You say, "I want more jobs." So in my mind, I'm saying it sounds to me like you're saying, "I want more torture." I want more microaggressions. I want more racism, racist treatment, right? But you're not really saying that. But in a way, you're saying that I went into the lion's den and I got ate up and it's hot in there, but I want to go in there because that's the only place I believe that I belong. That's the only place that I can go, right? And what I'm saying at the end of the day, it really comes down to the little basic things that we don't think much about, like self-esteem, knowing like, look, I can go anywhere and I can be successful in a lot of ways. I don't really need to have to lean on you. It comes with skill sets. If I have multiple skill sets, like if I know how to start the business as a kid, I don't have to have the job. If I know how to make an investment, if I have family that loves me enough to invest for me, then I've got a million options that a lot of people don't have. A lot of what happens also in a capitalist society that you should understand is that capitalism works best when dealing with people that don't have any options. Capitalism works best. It thrives on pain, and in fact, I saw something where somebody was, it was like one of these conspiracy theory pages, and they were saying that they believe that there's like this group of people called the jinn, like kind of like demons, and they thrive on your pain. They thrive on agony. They thrive on chaos. So they deliberately create chaos in the world so they can be fed. Like they it's like spiritual food for them, right? Now again, I don't know how true that, maybe some of you believe it, some of you don't, but I was fascinated with this video. And and so I would say I don't know if those jinn exist or those demons exist, but capitalism is kind of a demon that's right in front of your face. Capitalism feeds itself on misinformation. It feeds itself on financial desperation. It feeds itself on your perceived inadequacies and your deficiencies. Because what it'll do is it'll say, "Oh, you don't have high self-esteem. Buy these Gucci jeans. They're going to cost you $500, but you're going to really feel like you're an important person now if you buy this," right? It says, "Oh, you're economically desperate. You don't have any money to pay the bills. Well, just come work for our factory and we're going to make your life better. We're going to give you money. We're going to ease your pain. We're going to give you some dope. We're going to give you the dope, and when you get the dope, you're going to be numb. You're going to hate your life, kind of, but like a drug addict. You're going to hate your life, but you're going to keep going back to the drug because the only way that you're going to be able to feel normal is if you get access to more of this financial crack cocaine that I'm selling to you, right? So capitalism, or oh, you don't know the difference between healthy and unhealthy food? Well, try this fried chicken because the fried chicken is going to taste real good. All you got to do is be ignorant and not pay attention to what's in it. You just eat it, and it's going to make you feel really good. And then you eat the chicken, and you've been sort of eating all the healthy, unhealthy food, doing the unhealthy things, and then you get older, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm sick, I'm in pain. They say, oh well, capitalism says, oh well, you're in pain. I want to help you. I'm that, you know, because I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, I'm that nigga in the alley, right? I'm that brother that you need when you need a true friend. You know what I'm talking about. You know that song, right? So, so literally, capitalism's like, oh, you're not feeling well. Well, we got a pill. And the pill costs, it's $500 a month or whatever for these pills. But you take these pills, you're gonna feel better. And then, oh, you need a surgery? Okay, we'll get you that surgery. The surgery is going to cost you this much money. So capitalism kind of just sort of, it thrives when you need things. It thrives when you are system dependent. It thrives when you are ignorant. It thrives when you are undisciplined. When you're not disciplined, that's when capitalism really wins. Warren Buffett always says that wealth is a transfer from undisciplined people to disciplined people. So the reason that when I was thinking about, like I said, I want to do a class every day, I don't know what to call it. Financial consciousness came to mind because capitalism doesn't really thrive when it's dealing with conscious, educated, informed, disciplined people. It doesn't work because they can't sell you the pill to help you get better because you didn't spend 30 years eating fried chicken, right? So they can't sell you the fried chicken, and they can't sell you the pill to help you reverse the effects of the fried chicken, right? Because you were conscious enough to say, I'm going to eat healthy now so that I'm not giving all my wealth away in 30 years to big pharma. Do you understand? Capitalism doesn't thrive on the person who is prepared. If you're prepared and you say, and capitalism says, oh, you're desperate for money, why don't you come work for me, boy? Well, if you say, well, no, actually, I don't have to work for you because I know how to start a business. My family and I, they were investing for me when I was a baby, so I got $250,000 in the bank, so I don't really have to come to work. Well, then capitalism, it malfunctions. It's like, damn, we don't have another employee, right? So you got to just realize the society you live in. The fact that your whole society is built on capitalism should alarm you and concern you. It should put you on high alert, but it should also be seen as an extraordinary opportunity for you because you happen to be talking to a person who knows capitalism pretty well. I can break it down for you. I can show you where the blessings are located, where the opportunities exist. I can show you we can talk about these things. We can break it all down. And so all these things are happening at the same time. And I think it's very important for you to process that and decide within yourself, how do I want to pursue this? How am I going to play this damn game? And I think that's an appropriate way to end our class because that's what she said. She said, we're playing this game of Monopoly. How do we win? Well, that's how you win. With all these things that we talk about, the discipline, the patience, the commitment, the consciousness, the preparation, all that's how you win the game. And I can tell you the fact that I know thousands of you that are in here right now that are winning this game defies every myth that somehow the color of your skin limits your ability to be in the winner's circle. Does that make sense? So everybody type the word winner in the chat if you agree with what I'm saying. If you're hearing what I'm saying, let's finish off on this on a positive note. Type the word winner. You are a winner. You are meant to be to win. You are meant to be successful. You are meant to be on top. You are meant to prosper. You are meant to flourish. You are going to be the model for other people. That's what you're going to be. So winning must be contagious, and I believe that that's where we're going as a community. I don't care what the rest of the world's doing. I'm only talking about you. All right. So thank you guys for hanging out. It was real, and thank you for letting me go pee. I felt much better after that happened. And I will be back tomorrow morning. If you're not in the class yet, pull out your phone, text the word morning to the number 87948. So if you text morning to 87948, I will invite you to class. You'll hear from me a lot. I send out messages on when stuff happens. Later on today, I'm going to do a breakdown of some stuff going on with Intel. A lot of you may know that I invested in Intel. The stock went up a little bit today, and I'll give you kind of a breakdown of how that works. So just stay connected, and I'll send you guys information. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, and I'll see you all tomorrow. In fact, tomorrow's going to be fun. Tomorrow, I'm bringing in a sister named Crystal. I think her name's Crystal Shepherd, and she runs a black hair care salon. It's a chain called Kinks and Curls, and she isn't just good at what she does. She runs a great business, and she's also a big, big powernomics person. She really understands the assignment. She's part of the mission within the black hair care industry to take back the supply chain. And I met her in Tulsa, and I said, I'd love to bring you in so the students can meet you. This is a bad sister. So shout out to all the badass black women that are making things happen. We need you. And also to the great men out here that are standing tall and fighting. I respect all of you immensely. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.